All right, let's get started with this lesson. About Keep Me in the Loop is the app we're going to be working on. As you can see, we're bringing back our favorite map of trying to get our bus to the museum from one parking lot to the next. So let's get started. Now imagine, just like we've done before with this map, think about cupcakes. I always enjoy cupcakes. So imagine baking a bunch of cupcakes for school. Let's say the recipe called for 200 eggs and listed crack an egg and add to batter every individual time. So 200 times you'd see that. Not only would that take a long time, but you might lose count and have to start over, and then you wouldn't know how many eggs you have. So in computer science, what we're going to do is we're going to think about having, just like we're going to have here, sometimes you can have thousands of lines that repeat themselves. So computer scientists use strategies that reduce the amount of redundancy to shorten the code and make it easier to read. So redundancy is duplicating or repeating a code within a program over and over and over. So let's talk about what we can do. So obviously, we're using the same map that we've done in Amazing Algorithms. And what I want us to do is I want us to think about a portion of that flow chart that we've worked with before. And here's the portion I want you to look at. So as we know here, there's some steps here that repeat. Which steps do you see that are continuously repeating the sequence? You should see that it says move forward, move forward, move forward, move forward. So that's our repetitive piece. And what do you think we could probably do with our repetitive pieces there? If you're thinking that we could probably write some way of showing the flow chart that we keep moving forward using a conditional statement, you're correct. So what we have in our programming is called a for loop. So computer scientists use loops whenever they want to have their program repeat themselves or repeat the steps within an algorithm. So in an algorithm, wherever you want to repeat steps for a specific number of times, we use what's called a for loop. And the for loop is something that's used within the conditional statements. Remember, those are yes, no, or true, false questions using that Boolean logic. So using what you've learned about conditional algorithms, how do you think we could rewrite this flowchart? Well, one thing we know we can do is we can write a conditional statement that talks about, did we move forward far enough? So before you move on too far into this video, copy this short, brief linear flowchart down, and then pause, and then come back, and you're going to do a conditional statement. Okay, so hopefully you paused. Here's the conditional statement that we could change this to. You still begin. You can have a move forward there, and you can have it move forward in an increment of 1. The conditional statement here would be, is the number greater than the endpoint? So have we gotten to the point of the map where you're ready to make a turn? Once you get to that point, then we can basically tell the flowchart, well, then turn left there. If not, you can see our arrow goes back up to the move forward until you've gone far enough. Then you turn left. So copy this down so you have a good example of how we can think of this as a move forward, and we can think of this as a conditional statement. So what we're going to do is we're going to practice using a for loop in App Inventor. So I'm going to have a switch over here to App Inventor. And everything here is fine. Don't mess with any of the components or properties. The designer has it perfectly fine. But what we're going to do is we're going to look for for loops. Now, for loops are found in the controls, and they're right here. For each number from 1 to 5 by 1 is what we have as our example. So let's explore this box and try to understand how it works. Okay? For each number from the block, it's going to represent a loop that repeats the code inside the specific for a specific number of times. So let's say, and our movements are going to come from here in the procedures. Let's say I had a move forward in here. Okay, we're going to pretend we're looking at this. So the number of times it repeats is based on the values identified in the from, to, and by. These are considered parameters. Okay, so the variable name is its header. So the number by default is our variable. And that's what we're going to use as we work on these, is we're just going to think about the number, because it's the number of movements that we use. So the from parameter here in this example is initialized to 1. So the number 1, we start at that first position. The by parameter down here, this is called the increment. So this specifies the value that will be added to the local variable, the initial variables over here, or the local variable, I'm sorry, within this box, for every iteration or loop, every iteration, so every time it repeats itself. For example, it's going to change by 1 here, and the loop is going to stop after the number that is at the end of the piece. So here, this one is telling us that it would go from 1 to 5. So once it goes through the repetition of 5 blocks, going by ones every time, that would get you to wherever it is that you want it to do. So basically what this is telling us is this means that we want this number to move forward 5 times from starting point 1 to number 5, and we're going to move by 1 every single time. Okay, so that's what this is trying to tell us here. So we are going to start to put this into action, and what we're going to do is we're basically going to start thinking about this conditional statement that we have here, this flowchart, and we're going to use this flowchart to help represent the number of loops that we would have to use in our program. So we're going to get started by building this app. Okay, so a lot of the app's already been put together for you. You should have it already downloaded. You'll see it here. It looks so pretty on my app, on my tablet. And what we're going to do is we're going to start to explore some of the other stuff, though, that we see in the designer. This is what I want us to look at. So notice in the navigation commands, we have these other pieces here that say to move forward, or to turn left if school bus, to turn right if school bus, to move forward, do this, to component sizes, do this, to adjust component sizes. These commands are known as procedures. We're going to get into more procedures in a next lesson or next activity. But procedures are really you making one of these blocks. So imagine if you made something here, you've created it, now it shows up in here. Okay, so it's something that we can use if we have something that's going to be done over and over and over, and today we're going to do that. Now you don't want to mess with these, because these procedures are set up to work perfectly to help our app be successful. So the reason that procedures are considered a form of abstraction here is because you can use the procedure to hide details in your program. So when we go to click here and we put move forward in here, there's a lot of stuff that's actually going on. This is just shortened up. Here's an example. Here, I'll show you. So this is the move forward box, right? So this is the program for move forward. Take a look at this. This is everything that's happening when we say to click move forward. All right. So in the move forward, we first initialize the local X, and then for the school bus, and then we initialize the local Y where it's located in the school bus. Then we want to take the width of the canvas and paint color and so on and so on. So there's a lot of stuff here. It's a lot easier for you guys today to just think this is the block that was made, a move forward. So when we look at all these things like start button, if we look at start button font size, and we start to put things together, this is a way shortened version. It's not as stressful to think, okay guys, I want you to create this block to look like this. So this is a way for us to kind of use a procedure that someone's already created, and we'll be able to make our own procedures coming up soon as well. So we're going to start to loop our skills. I'm going to get rid of this for now so we can start over. I want you to do the same. And you can see here that we have a reset button that's already been created. So every time we click reset, what's going to happen is the school bus is going to move back to its initial X and Y location, which is designed right here on the map. Now yours may be sitting somewhere else. Don't worry about it. Run the app as it is first before you see if you need to move the bus. I moved mine over a little bit also to make it look easier to read. Yours should be fine where it's sitting over here. If the line doesn't work along the road, you can move it over here, but it should be good. Okay. So the school bus moves back to its original location. You clear the canvas of any drawings or lines and stuff like that. The school bus sets its heading back to 0, and the tracing label text is set to 0 So nothing is back on the screen and it will look nice and clean. We don't need to worry about it anymore, so we're just going to put that there. Well, let's create a start button. Well, we don't have to create it. It's already there. Here's our start button. But what we need to do is we need to start getting it to do something when we work here. So I'm going to pull a start button, .click, out of the list over here of blocks. Drop it right there. And what we're going to do is we're going to start using, we can actually use our amazing algorithm flowchart that you made in one of our first lessons, and you can copy that whole thing down, or you can use the map to try to figure out where we're going to go. But we're going to create a code using this algorithm so that we can show how to get the bus from here to the museum by tracing a line of the course, of the road. Okay, so we're going to be making a redundant pattern here using loops. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by pulling out one of those controls, and we're going to pull out for each number from 1, whatever it is. Okay, we're going to put that in our start button. So now there's really nothing there. If I go to my app and I click start, nothing happens. If I click reset, nothing happens because there's nothing that moved. But now what we're going to do is we're going to look at our first movement. So what's the first thing we can do with the bus? Remember the same commands: turn left, turn right, move forward. Those are all the commands that are created for us. So we know that we need to get the bus to get here before it's going to have to turn. So if we look, we're going to go from spot 1 to 4, and we're going to go in increments of 1, but it's going to do it really quick. Okay, the next action we can put in there right after, but let's first get that movement here. So right now it's programmed at 1 to 5, but let's do 1 to 4 for the loop. And we can go here to procedure, and we can either adjust the component size, which we don't want to. We just want to move forward. So if I put that in the box and I click off, and I go to see incrementally if it worked, I click start. Our line now traveled how far up the road? 4. So what's the next thing we have to do? Well, the next thing we have to do is turn left. But turning left, there's nothing more. It's just a one simple move. It's just got to turn that bus 90 degrees. So all I'm going to do is go into the procedures, and I'm going to call it to turn left. Now let's make sure it did what it was supposed to. So I'm going to hit reset, and I'm going to hit start. And now you can see that the bus has turned left. The line is still in that same box because we don't have to worry about turning yet. It's still within that same original block 4. Now we're going to start over, and now we're going to make our bus move forward 2 times. 2 times. So I can actually take this block, and I can Control-C, Control-V, copy and paste, but we have to change it to be from 1 to 2, so it only goes forward 2. Let's see if that works. I'm going to hit reset, and the bus should end up in here if it was done correctly. Yes, it worked correctly. So now we have to turn the bus which way? We have to turn it left. So we're going to turn it left, and then we can do the next program right away. It's going to have to move again 2 blocks. So what we can actually do is copy this command. Oh, before we do that, we first have to turn left. So I'm going to copy this command to turn left, and then I'm going to copy it to move forward. Okay, so click off, and let's see if it works. Reset, we should be right here if it worked. And we are, and the bus is pointing the right direction. So now what way do we have to turn the bus? You should know by now, and especially if you're using your flowchart, to turn right. So I'm going to turn right. Again, check it, make sure it works. Bus is turned right. So now we're going to do another 2 movement. So we can take this box. So obviously the copying and pasting is one way to fix the repetition. So we have that put together. So we can now check it. Reset, move forward. Look at that. Now we're going to have to turn which direction? I believe it's turn right. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to copy and paste it. Again, check it. Yep, we've turned right. Now we just have to move forward 1. So I don't think we have to make a whole loop that says from 1 to 1 by 1. So I'm just going to take a move forward and drop it in there. Now if we look back, we can probably do a couple motions here. That moves us to there. What way does the bus have to turn? It has to turn to the left. So I'm going to add a turn left in right away too. Now, let's see if we're on the right track. If not, we know where we have to go back and fix. Just those couple blocks. No need to fix it. We're on the right track. So now we're going to have to move forward 1, 2, 3 times. So we can copy and paste one of these move forward boxes. 1 to 3. And then set. Now which way do we have to turn? We have to turn the bus to the left. Copy and paste. And then we're going to have to move the bus forward 2 times. So I'm going to copy one of them that already has a 2 time. I know it's not that much work, but it saves just one little step. And now we're going to have to turn the bus to the left and then move forward 2 more times, and that should put us right where we are. So we're going to turn left. And let's move it forward. And we should be right in the parking lot if done correctly. Uh-oh, what did I do wrong? Everything worked to that point before we started doing these last couple movements. So our error is somewhere in the turn left and the move forward. So what do you think's wrong? Well, you should see that the path shows that we just took a wrong turn and we ended up in a building. So what we need to do is we need to take the turn and change it to a right. Let's see if that fixes it. Haha, there we go. I was able to figure that out. I'm so proud of myself, patting myself on the back. Now, if you followed along, you're able to get the first track done. So that's awesome. Now what I want you to do is I want you to work to try to figure out 2 more paths that our bus can travel. Then what I want you to do is figure out how can you display those down here. And I'll give you a hint. Right now we have one start button that works. Maybe we go into the designer and we can change this button that says start 1 and let's rename it path 1. And we can rename the start button path 1 button. And now when we go into our map or our map app, now it says part 1. So or path 1. So path 1 works here. If I reset it, how can I make 2 more buttons that show path 2 and 3 on here and then be able to show it to me that it works properly? That's going to be your challenge to figure this out. And then the final challenge I'll give you is can you get the line to try to match up perfectly on the road? So see if you can try to get your line to match up perfectly after you get all 3 paths working. You can try to adjust where the bus is or change some things there to try to get it to work. Okay, that's it for this activity. It shouldn't take too long, but it is practicing working with blocks to be able to use these to and froms. And now that we know that path 1 works really well, we can simplify and shrink this up and work on the other ones here. Good luck getting this done, and we'll see you, I guess, in person when we're done here. That's it.